Good evening once again, fiends, and welcome back to the Midnight Mass Creature Cast. I'm one of your hosts on this voyage, Bobby Blades, and with me tonight I have James. Chris has taken a little bit of a sabbatical. He will be, back from time to time, but manning this ship with me now is James from the Yesteryear podcast, who you probably know of. If not, well, welcome him.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing tonight? I hope well. Thanks for coming back and checking this out with me. Co-captaining, I guess you could say. We're manning the helm. So, awesome to be here. So, we decided tonight...
Pirates.
Yeah, with two pirates.
Two pirates on a ghost ship, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, basically, I'm your Patrick just telling you, you're good. Ship's just tearing up like with SpongeBob.
Going down to Davy Jones' locker.
Awesome. So yeah, tonight, for my inaugural with Mr. Blades, we're going to talk about The Fly, the 1986 version of that. So buckle up for that and enjoy. You said you just recently watched this again for the first time in about 25 years, you said?
Yeah, I think the last time I watched it might have been 1992. So it's been quite some time.
That's madness.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think you're making a mistake. I think you really want to talk to me.
Sorry, I have 3 other interviews to do before this party's over.
Yeah, but they're not working on something that'll change the world as we know it.
They say they are.
Yeah, but they're lying.
There is a limit, even to the imagination.
Human teleportation, molecular decimation, breakdown, and reformation is inherently purging.
Where our greatest creations meet our deepest fears.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
You are about to go beyond that limit.
Those weird hairs that were growing out of your back, I had them analyzed. But they were definitely not human.
If you saw how scared and angry and desperate he is.
I'm sure Typhoid Mary was a very nice person, too, when you saw her socially.
No!
You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you?
You're changing, Seth. Everything about you is changing.
Oh, no. What's happening to me? Am I dying? I want to know what's going on.
What does the disease want?
It wants to turn me into something else.
Oh, no.
A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone.
Don't go back to it.
It could be contagious.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Help me. Please, help me.
So this one is basically, again, it came out in 86, and it's a remake of the 1958 classic that starred Vincent Price. Pretty much anything with him for that time is gold, like Mask of the Red Death and all those other crazy, like Vincent Price is like the go-to guy for creepy of that era, in my opinion. So,
Right, he's legend.
So this one, the 86 version, you basically have 3 actors. You got Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, and John Getz. And did you ever see Men at Work?
I did, yes.
So John Getz is in that as well. And that's kind of where I remembered him the most. And I didn't know where else I had remembered him from. And then I watched this again and I was like, oh, he's that guy. Like, he plays that part to a T. Like, just like the jerk guy. But kind of good, but not really. But yeah, he is that guy. So...
Now, who did he play in Men at Work? I'm trying to remember.
Maxwell Potterdam III. He was the main bad guy. Like the
Okay, so he was the landfill guy, right?
Yeah, he was the. I think he was not the politician. The politician guy. He was the guy that killed the politician because he had He was dumping toxic waste in his landfills. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, because the guy who got shot in the ass is the politician, or was the politician. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I killed him. Yes. Yeah. Great movie.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't seen this guy in too many, or maybe I just haven't remembered it.
Literally.
But yeah, Men at Work was memorable.
Yeah, he's part 1 and part 2 of The Fly. He reprised his role in part 2. And then Men at Work, and that's about the only places that I know him, but he plays that part to a T. Like, that is him. So I give it to him for being that. So
yeah, talk about getting typecast.
Right. Goldblum and Davis. I mean, supposedly this is before she kind of blew up. I remember this and Beetlejuice around the same time. I can't remember when Beetlejuice came out for her, but this I think is kind of like a launching point for her, for actress wise. And then, I mean, Goldblum had been around. I don't know when. I know he was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The remake.
Yeah, weren't they together in Earth Girls Are Easy?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Which was also a really creepy movie. They were like hairy aliens from space. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, and then you shave them and they look just like people.
Yeah. Which is standard. When you meet hairy aliens, you immediately shave them down.
Yeah, let's give them a makeover.
Yeah. How Julie Brown was in that, and she was so obnoxious. The director of The Fly, of course, is directed and co-written by Cronenberg, David Cronenberg. And when it comes to Cronenberg, I mean, first off, he's got his own. Are you a Rick and Morty fan at all?
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
I mean, he has his own universe in Rick and Morty, according to them, which is just basically a disgusting muck people type universe.
Yeah, it's where everyone's turned inside out. They're all mutated, and
yeah. When it comes to Cronenberg, he literally is like that guy. You've got obviously The Fly, Dead Ringers with Jeremy Irons. I don't know if you ever saw that one. Videodrome with Peter Sellers, where his hand
yes.
remember he's like messing around and he has like a hole in his stomach and he puts the gun inside of him and then it disappears inside of him and later it's his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, what trippy mind do you have to come up with this stuff? Scanners, where literally
scanners
scan you to blow up. There's a movie called Naked Lunch where like the guy gets hooked on his own bug extermination chemical and ends up like killing his wife. But then he's also a writer and he's like writing, like he ends up in like some like Narnia land at the end. It's really weird. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I've seen it once a long time ago, and then I was reviewing it again recently, like reading the synopsis of it, and I was like, man, I remember this. It was a creepy movie.
Yeah. That was by far the weirdest thing I had seen as a kid.
Yeah. Shivers, which is a real gem, if you're familiar with that. This is one of his earlier where like everybody turns into like sex crazed zombies in the building.
Wow, no, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that's a freaky movie. Nightbreed, which I actually did not know was his until I was looking at
favorites.
And that is, I was hoping they would have a sequel to that one. Because at the end, if you remember, the one guy kind of like became the new evil god guy, and he had the mask on his head and everything. I was like, man, they need to sequel this movie, and they didn't. But I thought that was actually a really cool concept. And that's just to name a few of the Cronenberg movies. So
really, I thought it was Clive Barker who did Nightbreed.
Well, maybe it is, but when I looked it up, I was looking and it said Cronenberg. So let me, I don't know.
Maybe Cronenberg did the effects and Barker wrote it. Let me check here.
That's written by Clive Barker.
Okay. Yep.
But
yeah, David Cronenberg.
Oh, he stars in it. He's the guy. He's the guy that gets turned into the
he
evil.
becomes the monster.
Yeah, he's Dr. Phillip. Yeah, okay. That's why he's associated with it. I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got the mask that he puts on with the little star eyes. It's freaky as all get out.
Yeah, this movie scared the crap out of me.
Same. Yeah, and then at the end, like, because he does that creepy yell when he gets brought back to life and everything, and he's like, I don't know, it was bad.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of insight into actors and writer / with Cronenberg. But as for The Fly itself, like I said, it was a remake. The original had where it was the scientist who was already married to the lead, and we kind of see the movie through flashbacks for the most part. It's more of, she's kind of telling it to the doctor and the policeman, I think. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen the original. And it has more... Go ahead.
I was definitely much younger. Like, it was before I saw the Jeff Goldblum version or the David Cronenberg version of The Fly. So,
gotcha.
Something I used to watch on Nickelodeon or wherever those channels were back in the day,
I gotcha. Yes, but this one, that one has to do with a man losing himself to the insect and being afraid of losing control. So he has his wife kill him in a press, basically. They go to like some warehouse or something like that, and he puts his head into the press, and she pushes the button to kill him because he's afraid of losing himself to the insect mind. Like, he's getting further and further away from what he was. And we also get that awesome scene with the white fly. The whole movie, this kid keeps talking about this weird white fly that he sees flying around. And it gets caught in the spider web, and it's half fly, half human, and it's all, help me, as the giant spider comes. Oh, that's where that
line came from, yeah.
Yeah, so I bring that up, even though we're not talking about that one specifically, because the original theme seems to be more about how man will destroy himself for trying to essentially play God. Like, that seems like that's what that movie had more to do with. A man, taking science too far and destroying himself instead of being about a love movie. This one is more of a love story to me, but really gross. It's actually like, there's scenes in it where you have like where they're walking on the street and Jeff Goldblum gives Gina Davis like a necklace or something like that and whispers something nice in her ear and everything like that. What you'd take to maybe be like is I love you or something like that. So it's really, they play it as a love story, but it's more than that to me. After watching it again and really kind of delving into it, it's more.
Oh, absolutely.
So of course it's gross, with Jeff Goldblum morphing into Brundlefly, which is basically a 6-foot maggot, which eventually comes apart and reveals the giant man-fly combination. And that meat falling off of him as it's walking backwards is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen as a child. Like, literally on the couch with the psychiatrist the next day. Like, it all started with my parents showing me this horrible movie. And then the fact that they coined him as Brundlefly, which I hate. The word Brundle sounds horrible, and then fly makes it even worse. Who uses vomit drop to eat is horrible. Especially like the slurping noises that they play while he does so. Like, you don't even have to see it happen. Just hearing that slurping noise is disgusting. So, I mean, we can get through all of that. Like, it's like, I think there's like 5 stages that they had for his morphing from regular Jeff Goldblum and then all the way to the end of being a fly.
Each time you see different degrees of things falling off, little pustules growing, and all this other stuff. It was just the makeup artist did a bang up job there.
For sure. I think they run a lot of awards for that. So when I looked it up and was doing some research on everything like that, apparently it's supposed to represent aging. of man. Like as you start off and you're young and vital and all that kind of stuff, and then you just get horribly messed up until you're old and brittle. But here's the kicker for it. I think this is what the movie is really about for me, undertone wise. So I'm gonna take a real quick synopsis of the movie here. So Seth sees Veronica at a party, right? And it's for like scientists or whatever, and she's a reporter. He brings her back to his loft to show her his invention. And I'm guessing this may have been something that he's done before to get some action. Like, I don't think, because he even says, I didn't know you were a reporter. If you remember.
Yeah.
Like, so he just saw a pretty girl and was trying to impress her.
Right.
To get some play. Exactly. It had nothing to do with anything else. So I'm like, this guy's used this before. He is.
That's his technique.
It's his technique. He's a scientist. He's really smart. And he uses this, and he's done it again and again. However, this time he actually meets someone who stimulates him intellectually, and he wants to pursue her. So you've got, basically the bachelor aspect, somebody who's got a nice place, doing well for himself, picking up, girls, a young guy, basically doing his thing. So he does so with her and actually falls for her, leading to a romance. So much so that due to his drunken, jealous rage over Ronnie and her ex-boyfriend, because that's what he's afraid of, he makes a foolish mistake, resulting in his eventual demise. So literally, he's good to go. He's doing fine. She helps him out a bit. They fall in love a bit. And then he gets jealous because of love and makes a stupid mistake. Something that he wouldn't and has not done up until this point, which is fine. He then finds himself transformed horribly as a result of this relationship, to the point that he no longer recognizes himself. Right? He's turned into something horrible. Now the relationship is over, and he is literally falling apart without Ronnie, and begs for her to come back. She kind of does, but finds it impossible to truly love the mess that he has become. So now he's changed himself, basically kind of like representative for this woman to try and make him love her, or her love him, and she wants nothing to do with him. So in the end, Seth finds that he hates what he has become so much that he'd rather die than live without her, and has her killed. That is kind of deep, but that's kind of like what I read into this, right? So basically, to me, the movie is about how love can literally ruin your life.
It's a story of the ages, or a cautionary tale for young lovers.
Exactly. It's like, hey, you got, it's kind of like somebody was hurt deep. A guy was hurt deep, and he wrote this movie. It's like some woman literally ruined his life. And he's like, yeah, I don't even recognize myself anymore from what I was. I was this spry young guy, getting the girls, doing everything that I could. And look what I've become. I'm just a horrible mess, and I can't live without her. And that's kind of what this movie, with a whole bunch of gross aspects, kind of comes down to being. To me.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what my takeaway from it was, along the same lines as what you were saying. Here we have, he brings her home. He kind of falls for her because he finds out that, she's not just a bimbo. She's actually got something to offer. She can match him in some way.
Right.
But then he finds out about her ex-boyfriend, in a jealous rage. I'm going to jump in the pot, doing stupid things to spite her, when he actually ends up hurting himself. And just it's, I don't know, you said it best, but yeah, it's basically like when you're all in for somebody and then things go horribly wrong, it's like basically you're Brundlefly on the inside. You're falling apart, you're drooling and throwing up everywhere.
And then when she leaves, he goes out and he's like, oh no, you know what? I'm better off now. Look at me, I'm better. And he goes and gets the floozy, brings her home to do the exact same thing and try and make her basically get to the point that he was with Ronnie in an instant. Like, boom, like, look, you go through the pod too. And then she's all, be afraid, be very afraid. And she shows up and everything like that. And then he realizes after Ronnie leaves, oh no, my nails are falling off and I'm actually kind of really gross. I'm horrible. So where he was no longer works for him. Like, that's what he must. I can only imagine how many women he brought back to his loft and showed them this magic trick. They couldn't get it, and he hooked up. Here's this crazy guy with this thing. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I came out with this, as an underlying story, like to mess with you kind of like psychologically. So
yeah, and that's like some of the best horror films. It's more than just the shock of seeing something. It's kind of like the undertones that you don't really notice at first. You go back and you're like, oh, hey, there was kind of a moral to this story. It's not just about hacking up teenagers who are showing their tits, that kind of thing.
Right. And the craziness of that, I mean, basically, what would you say the moral of like the 70s and 80s horror stories literally came down to: do not have sex, do not be promiscuous, do not do drugs, do not drink alcohol, because if you do, you're done. You're dead.
Yep, you're gonna die.
You think of like Tina from Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, getting thrown around the room because she was dating the bad boy. I think Bobby was his name. How dare you? That's a bad move. You cannot have a guy stay over, because as soon as you do, you're dead.
Oh yeah.
So, with this, I don't know. Did you see the sequel? Did you see The Fly 2?
I did, but like I said, these movies I've watched so very long ago that I'd have to kind of revisit it once again to kind of get a grasp on it, as opposed to seeing it from a child's point of view, seeing it from an adult view where I can gain more perspective on these things now.
Yeah, they took it. They took it to a different. I like that they took it to a different side. They didn't try to recreate the same thing. It's a weird movie. It's an off movie. It's sad, and it's more again about like losing your childhood type deal. But yeah, this one really used to mess me up. Like, I always like, oh, it's a love story, because this, and then really digging into it and seeing it like this, I was like, no, somebody's been hurt. I need to contact this poor guy that wrote the story and be like, bro, what happened? Who hurt you? The story, the movie actually has a couple scenes that got deleted out for being too much. They showed this movie to a test audience, as they often do with movies, and people like literally like somebody like passed out, people like threw up, people were leaving out because they were like, this is just too much. One of them,
but they didn't think the vomit was too much when he threw up on the guy's hand and then once again vomited on his leg and proceeded to throw up on his face. That was not too much. I mean, where do you draw the line here?
I think by the time then they had left. Yeah, that really was bad. And as a kid, that was what was really bad for me. The fact that he had been mutilated. I'm like, oh man, his hand. And then you see the bone, like when the hand melts and you can see the bone. I'm like, oh yeah. No, not the bone.
And the bones were melting too. He was losing fingers.
He lost the whole hand. It was down to the wrist. And just sitting there watching that happen would be horrible. But yeah, so there was a scene that Brundlefly is basically trying to figure out what he can do to fix himself. And he takes the baboon that was alive and an alley cat, and he fuses them together to see if he can fix it. Yeah, but it literally like jumps out of the telepod and attacks him and scratches him all up, and he beats it to death. And that freaked people out way beyond. And also, they didn't want they wanted sympathy for the Brundlefly thing to exist, and they thought that that might not be a good way to make it. So, right after that, that scene continues. He goes outside, and you remember when he's on the wall and he's like, "What's this?" I don't know. He lifts up his shirt and he's got like a lump. When Ronnie comes to stop,
that one. Okay.
So he falls because it starts hurting him, and he falls onto the roof of like a shed, and this little fly arm comes busting out of the hole. I mean, out of the wound. Like he grows this whole little twitching arm. He literally starts to rip and chew it off. And
wow, okay.
And it twitches after he does, it comes off and it twitches onto the ground. So yeah, that's pretty bad. So those two scenes cut, and they actually got filmed. There was also, what were you gonna say?
Oh, does that show up in like some kind of director's cut or like special edition Blu-ray or something?
I looked it up on YouTube. You can completely see those scenes if you want to see those. I don't know if it's on a special edition. It better be, because I want to see it. You know, I'm watching this movie for gross. I want to see all the gross.
Yeah.
Then there is I don't quite know how this scene fit into the movie. There's a scene where Ronnie and her editor, chief guy, I can't think of his name offhand, are laying in bed, and she's mad pregnant. And she's having a bad dream, and she kind of wakes up, and he leans over, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she drifts back off to sleep. And when she does, she has a dream about like this pupa sac that's hanging on like her uterus, and it falls apart, and it's these wings, and the wings open up, and it's a baby, and the baby flies off into this light. And she just sits there like smiling in her sleep, and then the movie ends. Like that was going to be an original ending, I guess. And you can see that one too if you look it up. It's not on YouTube. You have to actually look up Ronnie Dream in The Fly, and you'll find it. And it's really bad animation and everything like that. But I'm like, how does that even make sense? So
they decided to go with the maggot baby instead.
Let me tell you how horrifying that was. Now we did, kind of give the side of the point of view of being, oh, this is, a man being torn down by love. Dude, I couldn't imagine being a woman and having that maggot scene where she basically birds that thing and it's sitting there slapping her on the thighs and stuff like that. How I wouldn't have a baby. There's no way. I can only imagine if there were any pregnant women that were in the audience when that was playing. Like, what were they thinking?
I'm sure they were handed plenty of like vomit bags, and just they were probably the ones who passed out. I mean, after seeing something like that, I was like, oh, hold on, there's something else in there. Keep pushing. I don't want to push anymore. Just keep pushing. And then a maggot. Basically a fly larvae comes out. And, yeah. Okay. I'm done.
That is almost where I'm like, you know what? Stop the movie. I'm done. You went too far with that. You had me until then, Cronenberg. I'm done now. This is too far. Yeah. And you know what always bothered me when she's at the clinic, and she's like, "Oh, I'll do it myself if I can't." And he comes busting through the glass, and he picks her up, and she puts her arm around his neck. Why are you not fighting? Yeah, I'm not going with you.
I always assumed she was just too weak at that point. She was mentally, emotionally, and physically defeated, so she just kind of like gave in to everything.
I guess, but I mean, you show up looking like a chicken nugget. I'm not going out the window with you. I'm done. We're done. I've ended this relationship.
Yeah, he came through that window like a superhero, though.
He did. Which, I mean, that was a good jump factor as a kid, because I remember when that thing busted out, and it's like, and it's just like, holy cow. So yeah, he came through gangbusters. There is, I found this out today. I did not know this. There is a scene that was written but never filmed where he actually attacks a bag lady in the alley and literally melts her face off and drinks it. Like the little tubule thing comes out of his mouth and he starts to drink her face that he's melted. And then like he somehow snaps back into reality and realizes what he did and is like horrified by his actions. So I would have enjoyed seeing that scene because
that's something gross. They should have put in.
That to me, I'm like, holy cow, that is gross. I mean, you want to talk about a descent into madness, that nails it on the head. There is a scene that's filmed. You can find it. I think you found it on YouTube, where you know how he separates the foot of the guy before, you know, after he does the whole hand melty thing.
Yeah.
He actually, they show it. He picks up the foot and the little slurpy thing comes out and he starts to drink the melted foot out of the shoe. Gross.
Yeah, really bad. I mean, there's a lot of melting, and I want to take it back for a moment to before he brings that other bimbo home.
Yeah.
And he's arm wrestling. It's like only in the 80s could you get away with something like that. He's like, if I win at an arm wrestling contest with you, I'm taking the woman home. Right. You know.
What rules are these? This is 80s rules.
I know. So, this is the kind of things that like this was what the 80s was all about, I guess.
Yep.
But during that scene when he snapped the guy's arm, I felt it, and I actually checked my own arm to see if there was any bone sticking out, because that really got to me.
I agree that he's like, and then he just like, you see a little bit of like sweat and goo between the two hands.
Yeah, there's like, stuff oozing out of it. It's like he's melting the guy's arm or something.
And then it goes, and that bone compound fracture comes out, and he just starts screaming, and she's all, and he's just like, I got you. I win.
Yeah, like, how would that chick not be freaking out? Yeah. I mean, if she sees something like that, she doesn't know this other guy, Brundle. And she's like, oh, my boyfriend, his arm is broken. Why? I'm just cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
I want to say, oh, sure, I'll go home with you.
Right.
I mean, come on now.
That's totally what I base all of my men's standards off of as a woman is arm wrestling, and that's it. I don't care what kind of job you got. If you can, you're steady. If you anything else, can you win at arm wrestling? Oh, you can compound fracture them. We're going. I'm good.
So basically, you're just living that over the top lifestyle.
Right. The hat turns around, flips the switch. We're good to go. So, I did like how, well, I mean, of course, because he's a nasty insect fly, how his house initially, the loft was like real neat and tidy, but then it just turned into a complete wreck. Like trash cartons everywhere. And yeah, he was like living his, as he calls it, his museum of body parts or whatever it was that he said in his cabinet.
Oh yeah, the Brundlefly Museum of Natural History.
Horrible things in that cabinet. I don't know if you saw everything that was in that cabinet.
Did he have testicles in that?
He absolutely had the whole thing in there.
Wow.
The whole thing.
I wasn't sure, but I thought I saw testicles.
Yep. He had put it in the jar, and I'm like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. That's not how I want to, end up in my old age.
Yeah. So the moral of this story is that love makes you a mess.
Yes.
And
unrecognizable to yourself.
Yep. And if you have teleportation pods in your home, then you will try to return back to normal. You're going to abduct people from bars. You're going to be breaking arms and all this other craziness. And you're going to be vomiting a lot.
Yeah. Which is horrible. It's horrible, vomiting a lot. I love it. Gross. That's all horrible. I really wished, the other side of it is, just to say the ending, he should have grabbed Homie and thrown him into the telepod. Would she have made the same choice if he was like begging as a thing to press the button to teleport? Would she have gone ahead and done it and seen how that turned out to see if you can get Seth back? Because the other guy was kind of, a jerk anyways. So that kind of would have put
dick through the entire film.
Yep. That would have put the moral, on her to say, do I get the guy back that I love, or do I save do right by this guy who's, has nothing to do with this really. So, but they didn't go that route. Instead, they just melted him. So
the thing that I didn't understand as a kid that I was looking at when I was watching it or rewatching it was when Brundlefly fused with the telepod. It's like, now we've got a new thing, and it's what the hell is like? I have it in my notes here. Hold on a sec. Oh, it's now Cyberfly or something. And so he's not just a fly anymore. He's actually fused with the pod. He's got like Terminator 2 legs and little hoses coming out of him and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, I never noticed this the first time I watched the film.
Yeah.
I was too busy like being freaked out at a giant fly coming out of there.
Yeah, that was horrible. I mean, it's like, not only now are you not what you used to be and everything else like that, but now you're like fused with, like you said, metal and tubes and wires and everything, and you're still alive. And it's like, oh my gosh, please put the shotgun to my head. Do me the favor, lady.
She couldn't do it close range. She had to step back and just explode his entire head.
Right. Right. Which they gratuitously showed you.
Yeah.
And then here's another piece I wanted to say. When he's disintegrating and pulling her towards the telepod, and she's touching him, and he's all falling apart, and his eyes are coming in, and his gunk and the meat's falling off, and she's touching it, and she keeps putting her hand to her mouth because, like, that's how she cries or she frets. She puts her finger over her mouth, and I'm like, ew, lady. You got meat bits on your hand. That's inappropriate,
It's like, this tastes like steak. This one doesn't taste like steak.
Oh, no, not that. That bothered me. And she said the right line on that. She's like, are you kidding me? A dead baboon just came out of there. I'm not eating that. And she sure did. Gross.
Oh, boy.
Gross.
Yeah, I think they should have left the inside out baboon not shown on camera, maybe. Just have like the noises and not show that, because that was extremely disturbing.
It was just sitting there like bubbling.
Yeah.
The machine doesn't
like you could see
this.
the skeleton and the muscles, and
yeah.
It's like, no, thank you.
And I appreciate why they had to do it so that he could understand, but his theorem, he already understood that the machine didn't understand flesh. You didn't have to put the baboon through. So thanks for that, Jeff Goldblum. That's one less thing that I can not have nightmares about for the rest of my life. Gross. So yeah, this movie did do bank at the box office. It literally quadrupled its budget worldwide. Like it had like a 15 mil and it did like 60 worldwide gross, which is epic.
Insane.
Yeah, and it won a bunch of awards, obviously, for I think for acting and definitely for special effects. So because it went,
I believe
the
it,
distance.
because the practical effects were amazing. I mean, they are better than the stuff you see rendered as CGI these days.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Definitely gives you that gore factor.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of I've discussed that a lot. Like, I appreciate CGI. I appreciate what it can do and how it can bring us into other worlds without whatever. But there's something about that visceral, flesh melting, hand melting thing that you can see that makes you really feel it. Like, oh my gosh, I could not imagine seeing my friggin' arm bone sticking up where my hand used to be.
Right, absolutely.
That would be horrible. So, yeah.
And that's kind of like why the thing the original one, remains one of the all-time best effects. I mean, just the way that it was done.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this along the same lines as what Cronenberg's, like Brundlefly's transformation into that horrific creature. Just like all the steps that it took, and then the makeup and everything, how he goes from looking normal young guy to this basically a leper.
Yeah.
Just horrible. And then there's pus. And I mean, at one point I thought his flannel shirt had cum stains all over it because
what are you doing?
It's like, did you spend all day masturbating? Wash your shirt.
He had to get them all in while he could because that thing was going in the cabinet. So,
yep, his Brundlefly Museum of Natural History.
Oh no! You're absolutely right. That shirt looks horrible. Oh God, I couldn't eat donuts for like 2 months after watching that movie because I was like, "Oh, I'm done. I'm done with all of this." So, but good movie. I mean, it definitely
holds
stays a
up.
classic, and it does hold up. And I don't think that there's. I mean, you can of course see, here and there things, but what movie can't you? And I think that it really holds up. So.
Yeah, there's plot holes in everything. And so, I mean, to have something that came out in 86 and surprisingly hasn't been remade by Hollywood yet, which is another thing. And to be able to watch it in 2021 and still be grossed out by it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's saying something.
Agree. 100% agree. I always hated his hair too. Like stage 2 hair. It's all greasy and laid down.
He had the worst 80s hair. Holy crap.
So, just horrible. Yuck. Yeah. So that is The Fly. That is what.
Yeah. That is The Fly indeed.
All right. Yeah. So trivia time. Let's see. So I like this. So after watching some of his early films, director Martin Scorsese asked to meet David Cronenberg. Upon meeting him, Scorsese said he looked like a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon. This inspired Cronenberg to give himself a cameo as a doctor, which I didn't know that. I guess he the doctor that is going to perform the abortion?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is he the abortion doctor, or because they didn't show the birth scene? So,
unless
the dream maggot doctor, maybe. Yeah, the maggot baby doctor. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because there are 2 scenes. There's the abortion doctor, and then there's the dream.
Let's see. I was hoping it would tell me right offhand, but apparently it doesn't. So, anyway, that's interesting.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese saying you look like a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon.
Yeah, Scorsese's a whole nother horse of a different color when it comes to filmmaking. So I like him and his eyebrows. Wow.
Okay, so in a 1987 interview on Sinister Image, Vincent Price revealed that when this remake was released, Jeff Goldblum wrote him a letter saying, "I hope you like it as much as I liked yours." Vincent Price was touched by the letter as he composed a reply and went to see the film, which he described as wonderful right up to a certain point. It went a little too far.
It went a little too far. That's on point.
Really pushing the envelope there.
He's like, so I like what you did here. Not so much here. The vomit drop probably did it for him. That's probably when he was like,
the inside out baboon.
Yeah. No, thank you. And like people wanted to get pet baboons after this movie. People are like, oh, I'd like,
really?
No, thank you. There's no pet baboons. No, we don't have that here.
Those things will rip your shit apart.
Yeah.
You don't want a baboon.
When primates attack, they generally go for two things: your face and your genitals. This is proven. Like the lady who got attacked by her orangutan or whatever it was that she had her ape, her chimpanzee for like 15 years. The thing one day lost its mind and decided to attack her and chewed off her face and tore her up, because that's what they do. You don't keep pet baboons. You don't keep things like that.
Yeah, they have an entirely different set of morals.
Right. Which does not have to do with your face.
You want to keep your genitals intact and not have them in a jar? Don't have a pet baboon. Yeah.
I do. Right. Note to self. No baboons. So the scene where Seth and Ronnie are having coffee at the restaurant and Seth is talking endlessly was only half scripted when production began. The remainder was written the night before the scene was going to be filmed, as Jeff Goldblum felt that he could add more to the character. And that, I did like how he was speaking really fast, doing the whole sugar thing, poured into the coffee and telling her how great everything was after going through the telepod and all that stuff. So I that's pretty cool. So,
yeah, and that's just a testament to how good an actor Jeff Goldblum is, that, you know, there's only a certain caliber of people that can kind of bring that out, that can improvise that kind of stuff. It's like not everyone can do that.
Right. And just being able to just like progress your character and kind of really own him. I think that's pretty cool. So
serious method acting right there.
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder if he threw up a lot for this part.
I would. I'd have. Every time that I put that suit on, I probably would have, because that shirt, that flannel shirt.
Well, every time I laid on that couch, I mean, that couch was awful.
Yeah.
I hate that couch.
You know, he had to be sleeping somewhere. And yeah. So gross.
That is the worst looking couch that I have ever seen. I mean, what is that? Is that corduroy or something? I don't know, but it's gross.
It is. It was a fold-out couch too, wasn't it? Didn't it fold out?
Yeah, that was a couch bed or a bed couch or something.
No.
Oh man.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. 80s. Keep your couches.
So.
Oh man. And speaking of baboons, those involved with the making of the film, including David Cronenberg, remember that the baboon, whose name was Typhoon, was very much a wild animal and not an actor. Visual effects supervisor Hoyt Yeatman said in a special features documentary that Typhoon was once startled by the flashing light in the telepod and broke the door off to get out.
Good gosh.
The Wrangler and Jeff Goldblum, who is 6'4", were the ones who had to keep the primate in check. They're very volatile, and there's no such thing as a tame baboon, Cronenberg said. Jeff, because he was much bigger and stronger than the baboon, was able to dominate him, and the baboon's wrangler said it was a good thing that the baboon formed that relationship. Otherwise, there could have been big trouble on the set with some of the female members of the crew. Holy shit.
I'm sorry. Dominate the baboon?
He had to dominate.
How exactly does one dominate the baboon?
What does he hold him down?
That's what I'm going to call it from now on when I'm in the bathroom. I'm dominating the baboon.
You listen here. I'm the alpha. You're the beta.
It's a good thing that he was bigger. Otherwise, there's trouble for the females on set. Hold up. What? Why are they in trouble?
So if the baboon dominated both the Wrangler and Jeff, then the baboon would have chosen a female to mate with? Right. Is that what they're saying?
I think that's what is being insinuated.
Wow.
And the fact
now
the trainer, look, you don't offer this information up to people. You don't, if you're the trainer and you're getting paid for this, don't tell me about the dominating baboon. I'm really just not wanting to work with the baboon if this is something I have to worry about.
Yeah, you're an actor. You're not there to dominate baboons,
right?
And assert your dominance to them. And
but
Holy shit. Of all the things that could have gone wrong, I mean.
Right. But how does one do this? Is what I want. I just want to know, what did Jeff Goldblum do to dominate said baboon? Like, what?
Did he have the wrangler behind him going, all right, you got him pinned down and
Right.
pull out your penis?
Right. Did he fight the baboon? Did he just flash him and say, no, bro, I'm the king?
Yeah.
You know, he arm wrestled the baboon and, I got it.
Did he break the baboon's arms, snap it in two?
Oh, no. How does that? That's
pure
wild,
insanity.
dude. I'm glad that we found that out, because that is absolutely wild. They really did have some risque stuff with animals in the 80s. Like, literally, I mean, how many times did like a bear go crazy or something like that on a set and like eat the trainer?
Right. I'm wondering that too.
Now I'm afraid about the baboon situation. In the movie Damien, they the Omen, not Damien, but the Omen, when they're at the animal sanctuary and they go and the baboons come. Are you familiar with that at all?
I seen it, but man, like I said, long time ago.
So all the baboons start freaking out, and there's actually one in the car, and they had to sedate it to have it in there and everything like that. But apparently it started to come out of sedation and go crazy. So that whole scene, they just kept rolling film. The whole scene with like it being in the car going crazy at them and everything like that, like, is like for real. Like it's not fake. I'm like, no, thank you. You're not gonna put my child and me in danger.
Yeah, because there was a kid and a woman and the guy in the car, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, man, the things that they went. I hope they got paid really good.
I don't think they did. It's like, hey, you want to be in this movie? I don't know. Well, you get to dominate a baboon. Well, I mean,
don't worry. We'll show you every possible way in which you can dominate the baboon, and he will have to succumb to you.
Right.
I think I'll pass.
It's just natural. This is nature in action. It's good. Oh my word. That's too much. Too much baboon work. The famous tagline, "Be afraid, be very afraid," of course, originated in this film as dialogue spoken by Veronica Quaff. I guess is that her name is.
I almost said Queef.
Queef. So did I. We'll say Quaif, I guess. Yeah, Gina Davis's character, which gets played. I mean, still till today. I was watching Addams Family Values, I think it is the second one, and that's what Christina Ricci as Wednesday Addams says it. She says, "Be afraid, be very afraid." So I was like, wow, that played on, and it gets said all over the place.
That's legendary now.
Yeah, which is humorous to me. So, not to go crazy off topic, but man, I saw the trailer. Did you ever see Stay Tuned? Stars John Ritter, where they basically hell is basically in a TV world. It's where they've learned to collect souls through the TV, and you have to survive for like 24 hours in the TV world. Otherwise, they get your soul for the TV.
No.
Yeah, it's really good, but it's really timely. Like, you being older like me would watch it, and you would get all the references of the TV shows and all of that stuff. But other people, like as of today, they're not going to know what these dang shows are. Like, it's not going to make any sense to them. And I was like, wow, this movie does not age well. Anyway, sorry, that's off topic. It just made me laugh, because if you say be afraid, be very afraid, you can kind of like point somebody in the direction of what that's from and get it. But yeah, anyway. Go ahead with
It's
yours.
kind of like people who did you ever watch those YouTube? Now I'm going to go off topic, but those YouTube videos where they hand kids like a VCR or a Walkman, and the kids are trying to figure out like what the Walkman is and how it works and things like that.
Yes.
Okay, so that kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, you say something that's so dated that nobody knows what the hell you're talking about.
Yep.
Just like Pinhead's iconic line, where it's something like, now it is time to play, or something
Right.
like that. And
Yep.
I don't think anybody would get that reference anymore.
Nope. Rip Pinhead. They're making him a female now in the new one. They're making it a female.
There's going to be another one.
Yeah, and they're making it a female Pinhead, which makes no sense to me because literally that is, I mean, he's Pinhead. So
Doug Bradley will forever be Pinhead.
Right. You know, like the voice of Chucky. You don't change the voice of Chucky because that's Chucky. He's always the same guy. He's got the same humor, the same everything. You don't go and change that.
Good old Charles Lee Ray.
Yeah.
Brad Dourif is amazing, though.
Yes. Yep. For sure. So, what else you got?
I think that's it. What say we close up shop on this here? I don't even know what kind of reference I was going to make now. Never mind.
Nice.
My mind is down the road.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I guess that will do it for this week's episode.
All right.
It's
all right. I think we'll wrap it up for this week on the old Midnight Mass Creature Cast. I hope everybody enjoyed our discussion of The Fly. And me and Mr. Blades will be back next week and following weeks to discuss some more movies, probably Invaders from Mars, and then They Live, I would say. Two ultimate 80s classics that have a lot of social implications, at least They Live do. So
definitely.
We will definitely be able to expound upon them with our knowledge. So, all right, for Mr. Blades and me, I will say toodaloo for now, and we will see you next week.